I came to Trinity in 1981. I was here 81 to 85 and I did business, BBS. And as I've said elsewhere, my reflections are, I left here in 85 with a business degree, lifelong friends, and a kind of a world of opportunities that opened up to me. And after finishing here, I did a master's in finance in UCD. And while I was in that course, I was hired by one of the US investment banks, and I joined them in London. And I spent most of the following 10 years working in banking and finance in London and New York, back and forth. So that was kind of the stepping stone out of here. I became an entrepreneur, and I started my own businesses, 3 in succession in the telecoms area. One starting in New York, and I built that up and sold that. One back in Ireland when we moved back here 20 years ago, and sold that as well. And then the third one was in Central Eastern Europe, and built that up to over 100 million revenue, and we sold that as well. So I had this entrepreneurial phase of building and starting my own businesses, literally from the apartment in New York, from the spare bedroom in Ireland when we did that one. Third time round I had an office, but built up the businesses, hired people, raised the finance, you name it, everything one has to do to build businesses. So that was the entrepreneurial phase. And then overlapping slightly with that, and what I've been doing to date in terms of my day job, is I run a small venture capital business where we invest in other entrepreneurs and startups in Ireland. And I've been doing that for pretty much 15 years now.
Okay. So just like relating specifically to the election, what qualifications and what assets do you think you have that qualify you to be a senator?
Well, I guess there's 2 core assets or qualifications. In terms of the outside world and my day job, I think I've outlined some of that. I'm 30 years business experience, working for large multinationals abroad internationally, starting and building up my own businesses in a number of countries, and then helping to work with other entrepreneurs. In terms of the other core platform in Trinity that I feel qualified with, I've been working with the leadership of Trinity for almost 10 years now. I'm chairman of the board of the business school, where, as you probably know, we have a new €70 million project to build a new business school underway. I've been a member of the Trinity Foundation board for 7 years, and I'm a member of the new recently formed Provost Council. So with all of those things, you get to see a lot about the workings of Trinity and the university system across Ireland, and in particular how universities are funded or not funded, as the case may be. So we've built up a lot of experience in understanding the challenges there, and that's some of the experience I can bring to the Shannon. Well, look, I know where it's going, right? And it isn't for me to decide that, but it's already happening. Yeah. So what's happening in the overall funding model for Trinity and any other university in Ireland, they're pretty much the same in this regard, is that it's moving away from what was a government-dominated funding source of revenue to a composite model. And it's going to be made up of a few different sources. So clearly, government funding will continue to be an element, but it will be a smaller element of the overall pie. The other components are going to be everything ranging from philanthropy, which is a big element of part of the business school funding. We've raised almost 12 million in philanthropy to help fund that. It's going to be made up of an increase in the number of international students coming to college, and it's going to be made up of corporate investment into the areas of R&D. So it's going to move towards a composite. It might be interesting for you to know that we're fast approaching a situation in Ireland, or in Trinity, where the government funds only 35% of the total budget of this college. And most people are surprised to hear that. You
would advocate or at least support the move from a student contribution system in terms of individual students, at least, moving towards a student loan system or a grant tax, or would you have any?
I think it's inevitable that there's going to be an element of consumer pays, like everything else in life. So the student contribution or fee, as it should be called, is €3,000 now, as you know. I have 2 kids in college, so I fully understand this. But it will evolve, I think, very, very slowly there'll be a component of a student fee, we can call it that, and it will be an income contingent repayment loan system. I think that's going to happen. So it's not about whether you advocate it or not. The whole system is going to move towards this. And now, it's going to be very slow, I think, and gradual, and the government will continue to control the overall level of the fees. But look, what is important here is that to understand how universities are funded today in Ireland by the government, it's simply a quantitative basis. It's a headage payment. So the government set aside a certain amount of funding for all third level, and they divide that by the number of undergraduates coming in. So as more undergraduates come in, the average payment that the college receives per head drops, and it's simply qualitative. What we have to do is evolve that model to a qualitative, and that's important here in Trinity as well, because it shouldn't just be headage type payments, it should move to quality type payments, and quality of impact and outcome, I think, is important. So that's an important dimension to look at. Well, the 2 campaign priorities, and I'm comfortable with a number of areas, but the 2 are the area of business entrepreneurship and the restructuring of university funding. They're the 2 main issues. In terms of the former, which I think you're asking about, I've worked extensively, as you've just heard, in terms of starting businesses of my own and working with other entrepreneurs. We're at a significant disadvantage in Ireland relating to many countries, but particularly the UK, our nearest neighbour, in terms of the lack of real incentives, tax-based or otherwise, to attract capital into the formation of businesses and to back entrepreneurs. And if you consider that the vast majority of new jobs in Ireland are created by these new enterprises, it seems sensible that we should continue to improve that environment. So that certainly will be one area of focus for me.
Okay, so if you were elected, what do you think of, what will success look like in whenever the next election is, in 5 years' time and 2 years' time? What will a successful term in Shannon, and for yourself on a personal level, look like?
Well, in terms of my own sort of campaign platform issues,
yeah.
I think it's fair to say that if we can improve the environment for startups, most of that is tax-related improvements at the moment, and to release some capital into those areas. That would be good if we could step towards that and continue to do that. That's important. In terms of the larger multinationals, it's not about tax, really. They've had plenty of benefits in that regard. It's about ensuring that Ireland is able to continue to keep these companies here. And the good news and bad news is that it's about more of the more general issues. So, for example, in some of the people running some of the large multinationals here that you know well by name, they're saying their issues right now are it's difficult to attract the right levels of management and their families here because, for example, there's no international school in Ireland or in Dublin. Nothing that accommodates international baccalaureate, so that kids can move around as they move through the multinationals. So it's issues, infrastructural issues like that need to be addressed. And in many ways, Ireland is a victim of its own success in that it's been so successful in attracting all of these companies, which is wonderful, but we need to build out the infrastructure in order for them to stay here and thrive. I was probably regarded as a well-rounded student, and the coursework was interesting, and I have very fond memories of coming into what was then called ESS, which is now called BESS. But I came in wanting to do business, and that's the train I focused in on. I mean, apart from that, great time in sports. I was, I guess, an active club member for DUFC, for the rugby club, and enjoyed all of that. And then enjoyed some of the societies, and particularly DUBS. We would have been linked to that, and a few others. So that was great fun. But wonderful fond memories, really, in terms of the world it opened up to the sort of people I met, and that many of them are lifelong friends at this point. And I met everyone, including my wife here, and that would not be uncommon. There's a book that was put out recently called Trinity in the 80s. I don't know if you saw the book. Yeah. I have a chapter in there. You can get more details on my time in Trinity there.